Hi, I'm Nadine and welcome to my YouTube channel, Music and the Spiritual Realm. Thank you for tuning in to part 3C of Delving into the Spiritual Realm. Part 3C is where we're going to discuss the second test that Job had to endure. This is when Satan attacks his physical body. Okay? So I'm going to begin reading from the book of Job, chapter 2. And it reads, "On another day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said to Satan, 'Where have you come from?'" What you doing, Satan? What you got in mind next? Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth, just checking out what's going on, seeing who I can attack next. What can I do?" The Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. He avoids evil. He avoids evil." Let's remember that. We need to avoid evil. That's what it means by he shuns evil. "And he still maintains his integrity." In other words, he still loves me. He still trusts me. He still worships me. In spite of what he went through in the first test, losing everything he had, his children, his possessions, everything he had, he still maintained his integrity. "Though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason," Satan said he'll curse you to your face if you take everything he possessed. And Job didn't do it. But now here's Satan again. Give me one more chance to attack him, he will curse you. Now here Satan says in verse 4 of chapter 2, "Skin for skin," Satan replied. "A man will give all he has for his own life. But now stretch out your hand and strike his flesh." So this is part 2 where his flesh is attacked. "Strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face." The Lord said to Satan, "Very well. Then he is in your hands. But you must spare his life." In other words, do what you got to do, but I ain't gonna let you kill him. You can't kill him, but do what you want to do. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and afflicted Job with painful sores from the sole of his feet to the crown of his head. Then Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself with it as he sat among the ashes. Now, the Bible says very little about his wife, but the Bible does let us know that she did approach him. His wife said to him, "Are you still maintaining your integrity?" In other words, are you still trusting God? You still gonna love him? You still believe him? After everything that has happened, you need to curse God and die. In other words, you are better off dead than to suffer like this. Cuss him and die, because you're better off dead. And so it says here that Job said to his wife, "You are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and no trouble?" It says nowhere in the Bible that if you trust God and you love God and you live a life of holiness and righteousness, there's nowhere in the Bible that it says you will not suffer, that you will not have any problems. You'll never read that in the Bible. It's not there. Now, Job had some friends, or so-called friends, who heard about his suffering and all that he had went through. And they decided to come together and meet up with Job to console him and to comfort him. Now, the definition of comfort or console is to lessen the sadness or sorrow of someone that is going through. And hopefully we're going to strengthen them by inspiring them with hope and restoring a cheerful outlook. Now that's the definition, but now Job has 3 friends, or so-called friends, that heard about his sufferings and all that he went through, and they decided, let's go visit him, let's console him, let's comfort him. Now their definition of comfort, it was totally the opposite. But in chapter 2, verse 11, it says, when Job's friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, heard about all the trouble that had come upon him, they set out from their homes and met together by agreement to go and sympathize with him and comfort him. When they saw Job from a distance, they would look like, that can't be Job. Who is that? Who is that? They could hardly recognize him, the Bible says. They began to weep aloud, and they tore their clothes, and they sprinkled dust on their heads, and they sat on the ground with Job for 7 days, and they did not say a word. Now in chapter 3, after 7 days of silence, Job broke his silence, and he cursed the day that he was born. Before I read some of what Job said, his friends made the worst assumption about him. They told Job that he must be suffering because of some terrible sin. You did something terrible, Job, to suffer like this. We must be careful what we assume to be true in the lives of others. We must be careful of what we assume to be true. Assume without proof. Assume no proof. Be careful. Now, so here in chapter 3, Job cursed the day he was born. And here are some of the things he said. Let the day of my birth be erased, and the night I was conceived. Curse the day for failing to shut my mother's womb, for letting me be born to see all this trouble. Why wasn't I born dead? Why didn't I die as I came out of my mother's womb? I have no peace, no quietness. I have no rest. Only trouble comes. Now, from this point on, Job's friends, oh my goodness, they argued with him. They condemned him. Here's what Eliphaz said. Eliphaz argued that suffering is a direct result of sin. So if you would only confess your sin, your suffering would end. So Job responded to that, and if you go through the chapters, you'll see where they had something to say. Oh my goodness, it was horrible. Bildad, this is what Bildad said. How long will you go like this? You sound like a blustering wind. Does God twist justice? Does the Almighty twist what's right? Your children must have sinned against God, so their punishment was well deserved. That's horrible. But if you pray, as though Job wasn't praying, if you pray to God and seek the favor of the Almighty. And if means, there's doubt. If you are pure, isn't that something? If you are pure and live with integrity, he will surely rise up and restore your happy home. Now, like I said, in between these responses, Job argued. But here it says that Job cries out to God, I cannot keep my silence. I cannot keep from speaking. I must express my anguish. My bitter soul must complain. So here goes Job. Now he's in pain, he's suffering. Sometimes the mind gets twisted. If you go through severe pain in life, and you have to be rushed to the hospital, most times they sedate you because you cannot take it mentally, emotionally, or physically. So he said, my soul must complain. Am I a sea monster or a dragon that you must place me under guard? He's talking to God now. I would rather be strangled than to suffer like this. I hate my life and don't want to go on living. Oh, leave me alone for my few remaining days. Job thought he was going to die. He thought he was going to die during his suffering. Why won't you leave me alone? He said to God. Leave me alone long enough for me to swallow. Can I catch my breath? Can I get a moment of ease from this pain? That's deep right there. Why make me your target? Why make me your target? Why are you targeting me? I love you. I respect you. Am I a burden to you? He asked God. Am I a burden to you? You formed me with your hands. You made me. Yet now you completely destroy me. I encourage everyone to read the book of Job. Study it. I dare you to study it and read it. It'll change your life. Now, his friend Zophar responds to him. This is Zophar speaking right now. Shouldn't someone answer this torrent of words? In other words, this outburst of what he's saying. Is a person proved innocent just by a lot of talking? Does that mean he's innocent? Should I remain silent while you babble on, Job? Zophar accused Job of hiding secret faults and sins. He accused him of hiding secret faults and sins. Although Zophar's assumptions was wrong, he explained quite accurately that God knows and sees everything. Zophar was said to be the rudest of his friends. He was the rude one. He was the sarcastic one. Wow, that's something. So-called friends. Be careful who you call your friends. Be careful who you choose as your friends. Job referred to his friends as miserable comforters. He said, you are miserable comforters. I'm going through, I'm suffering. And if it was you that was going through, I would comfort you. I would help make it easier on your life. But you come and you stress me out even more. You put more stress on me. He said, I would encourage you. I would try to take away your grief. Instead, I suffer if I defend myself. And I suffer no less if I refuse to speak or if I just be quiet. I suffer no less because you're dogging me out, assuming that I did some terrible sin and God is punishing me for it. And I have not done such a thing. Remember this: God is sovereign and just in all his ways, even when we don't understand his purpose. Woo! I'm about to put a praise on that. Job says to God, "Oh God, you have ground me down and devastated my family, as if I prove I have sinned." In other words, you act like I did something wrong and you know I did it, and you making me suffer. You have reduced me to skin and bones. He suffered so much. He was so frail with those boils on his skin. He was skin and bones. My gaunt flesh testifies against me. God hates me, and angrily he tears me apart. He snaps his teeth at me, and he pierces me with his eyes. My eyes are red from weeping. Dark shadows circle around my eyes. Yet I have done nothing wrong. And my prayer is pure. Oh God, my prayer is pure. Why are you doing this to me? My spirit is crushed and my life is nearly snuffed out. The grave is ready to receive me. Now in chapter 38, so the argument ceased at chapter 32. In chapter 38, God answers Job. Read the book, study the book. I'm just going to read a snippet of what this dialogue says about Job, God speaking to Job, and Job's reply to God. The Lord challenges Job. Chapter 38, verse 1. Then the Lord answered Job from the whirlwind. Who is this that questions my wisdom? With such ignorant words. Brace yourself like a man, he said to Job, because I have some questions for you, and you must answer them. You must. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you know so much. God is saying to Job. Who determined its dimensions and stretched out the surveying line? What supports its foundation, and who laid its cornerstone? As the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy. Who kept the sea inside its boundaries as it burst from the womb? And as I clothed it with clouds and wrapped it in thick darkness, for I locked it behind barred gates, limiting its shores. Have you ever commanded the morning to appear and caused the dawn to rise in the east, Job? Have you made daylight spread to the ends of the earth, to bring an end to the night's wickedness? As the light approaches, the earth takes shape like clay, pressed beneath a seal. It is robed in its brilliant colors. Now, you really have got to read this. I'm going to go to chapter 40. And I am in the NIV version right now. I switched Bibles, okay? So I'm in chapter 40. I'm going to begin at verse 1. Then the Lord said to Job, do you still want to argue with the Almighty? Now, but you got to read everything that's going on in here. I'm cutting it short because I have to. Do you want to still argue with the Almighty? Are you God's critic? But do you have the answers, Job? Do you have the answers? And Job responds to the Lord, I am nothing. How could I ever find the answers? I will cover my mouth. In other words, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to cover my mouth with my hand. I have said too much already. Ooh. And the Lord still challenges him. He said, no. He answered him from the whirlwind. Brace yourself like a man. Because I have some questions for you. And you must answer them. Woo! Will you discredit my justice? God asked him. And condemn me to prove that you are right? Are you as strong as God, Job? Woo! Can you thunder with a voice like this? Like mine? Wow. All right, put on your glory and splendor and your honor and majesty. We have to be careful when we're going through life situations and circumstances. Not to question God, not to come at him like he owes us something. He don't owe us nothing. He's just merciful and gracious and loving and kind. But you have to read through the chapters, 42 chapters in this book of Job. The end result was Job repented for what he had said, and God restored him in the end. He had double of what he had before. He was restored, double of what he had before. He had 7,000 sheep before and 3,000 camels, and that was double the next time around. And God blessed him with 10 more children. And Job lived about 130 or 40 years after this suffering. That was after what he went through. God allowed him to live 130 to 40 years afterwards. I dare you to trust God. I dare you to trust him and lean not to your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him. He will direct your path. I hope you like the YouTube video. Give it a thumbs up. Please share, and subscribe to the channel. Until the next YouTube video, be blessed.